Hi everyone. Whether you were absent on the day that we went over this lesson or you just wanted kind of a review, today we're going to talk about the SIFT strategy for analyzing literature or analyzing any passage, a short passage that you're dealing with. You'll notice here I have a picture of a gold miner. This is very common during the gold rush out to California, and people would take these pans that are right here, and they would sift through the water and the rocks and end up with gold. And I really like that the acronym here is SIFT because ultimately we are looking for that nugget, that piece of gold that could really take your responses to a whole new level and show your readers just how invested you are in what you're writing. So the first thing is, what does SIFT stand for? SIFT stands for symbolism, imagery, figurative language, and theme. And I put next to imagery here word choice because that can basically kind of be a blanket or umbrella statement that when we're talking about imagery, we're talking about how the author's word choice is affecting the way that we feel. Figurative language, I have metaphor, simile, hyperbole, onomatopoeia, personification could also be in there. There's a lot of different options. Symbolism, we know, is when something represents something else. Like, for example, in A Christmas Carol, Marley's chains represent what he didn't do during life. And or the white umbrella to the narrator represents like being the ideal wealthy American. And theme, as we know, is the lesson or the life lesson, the central idea behind a story. So I have here some questions for you guys to think about. And these questions are also on a few different documents that you'll see. But the basic kind of theme of each section is how does each of these impact the meaning of the passage? And it might be that you only have one or two per passage. That's okay. We don't have to have symbolism, imagery, figurative language, and theme all in one passage. But we need at least one. And if you can't find at least one, the quote that you've chosen might not be a good fit for analyzing something. So let's take this example. So I have up here my introduction and my claim that says, in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, the ghost of Christmas past takes Scrooge through his past and forces him to relive some of the most important and in some cases painful moments of his life. Of all these visions, the one that haunts Scrooge the most is when he sees his ex-fiancée Belle with her new family. So there I've got my claim, and I've introduced my main idea. Next I'm ready to introduce the evidence. Scrooge is specifically focused on Belle's oldest daughter, and when he sees the way that she interacts with Belle's husband, he is left with an overwhelming feeling of regret. And then, in this green area down here, I have my actual evidence. And we're going to get ready to sift through here. So we're looking for symbolism, imagery, figurative language, and theme. And as I look at this quote, I'll read it for you guys. And when he thought that such another creature, quite as graceful and as full of promise, might have called him father, and been a springtime in the haggard winter of his life, his sight grew very dim indeed. A couple of things that grab my attention here. One is, let's see, this word haggard. And I'm not sure what it means, but it doesn't sound very positive. And then I notice winter here. I don't think they mean the actual winter. And then springtime, I believe, refers to the creature up here, which is actually the daughter. So after doing this and sifting through it, I've got a couple different things that I can work with. The first is this idea of winter right here is definitely a metaphor. And then we also have this metaphor of springtime. And the last thing I have down here is symbolism. I think that this going on right here, where it says his sight grew very dim indeed, I think is an example of symbolism because it's showing that even if his sight isn't actually growing dim, it's symbolic of the fact that he's realizing that he's becoming depressed. So, after I've gone through all of that, and I believe it was Group 78 that helped me create this last version that I have. This is what we ended up with. And now that I have all my thoughts down, I'm ready for the next step, which is to actually analyze and add to. So instead of just saying because many of you would do this where after this green area, it would end here and say, this shows that Scrooge has regrets. Blah, boring. Instead of just saying that, what we've now added in the orange here is Scrooge is watching what he could have had and realizing that all that he has given up while focusing on money and profit. In this passage, Dickens uses the metaphors of winter and spring to show what Scrooge's life is versus what it could have been. The haggard winter creates harsh images of bitter winds and bare trees and emphasizes just how lonely Scrooge truly is. So I don't just stop at calling it a metaphor. We've also gone and explained exactly what the metaphor represents. And then, in contrast, an important transition. Comparing Belle's daughter to the springtime represents what Scrooge could have had. Springtime brings up happy, positive, warm thoughts and is often known for recreating life after the tough conditions of a winter. When Scrooge accepts what he has become, his sight becomes dim, representing how dark and depressing his future might be. So, again, I hope you found this helpful. Just a reminder that when we SIFT, we are looking for symbolism, imagery, figurative language, and word choice. And we want to be able to do this process so that we can add more analysis and more to our quotes, and responses end up looking like this. Very detailed, very thoughtful, and they show just how bright and thoughtful you truly are as both a reader and a writer. If you have any questions, please feel free to see us. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing your progress in this area, and good luck.